The Galactic Council chamber floated above a storm-wrapped gas giant, a fortress of crystal and light orbiting endlessly in silence. Inside its enormous hall, the representatives of 1,000 worlds gathered. They were beings of every shape and color imaginable, scaled and winged, liquid and luminous, all seated in their levitating thrones that pulsed softly with bioluminescent hues. In the center of it all, a single light descended, forming a transparent platform. Upon it stood a lone human. Ambassador Rhea Morgan had never felt smaller in her life. The air shimmered with tension, humming with the whispers of alien minds linked through translation fields. The eyes or their alien equivalents of countless delegates bore into her. A dozen languages overlapped until the chamber's core AI merged them into one cold, perfect voice that echoed across the hall. Representative of Earth, the council speaker announced. His name was Veltor, a towering being whose skin glowed faintly like molten glass. You stand before the Supreme Galactic Council to answer for humanity's transgressions against interstellar order. You have violated the Council's protocols on expansion, artificial intelligence, and planetary armament. How does your species plead? Rhea lifted her chin. Humanity pleads curious, she said calmly. Her voice was steady, cutting through the layered noise like a blade. A ripple of confusion moved through the delegates. Veltor's many eyes narrowed. Curious, he repeated, the word twisting unnaturally in his mouth. Yes, Rhea said, taking a slow breath. Curious because we have been summoned here to defend ourselves for surviving. A low, vibrating murmur passed through the chamber. The speaker's tone sharpened. You call militarizing your system an act of survival? Earth was attacked 3 times before your council even responded to our request for aid, Rhea replied. We lost millions. No council ships came. No protection, so we protected ourselves. Veltor leaned forward, the light from his body flickering like fire. You misunderstand, human. The council does not protect individual worlds. We preserve order across the galaxy. You were warned to limit your research into hybrid AI. Yet your scientists continued. Our AI saved lives, Rhea said. It ended wars, cured diseases, and helped colonize Mars. You fear it because you do not understand it. The insectoid delegate from the Crix hive clicked her mandibles sharply. Understanding is not required for compliance. Rhea's eyes flicked to her. That's the problem with your council, she said quietly. You confuse control with peace. The statement sent a chill through the air. Even the translation field hesitated for a fraction of a second, as if weighing her words. In the observation balconies high above, journalists and envoys from lesser worlds whispered in disbelief. No one ever spoke to the council like that. Veltor's glow pulsed brighter. You dare accuse the council of tyranny? I accuse no one, Rhea replied evenly. I'm simply explaining why humanity cannot submit to a system that fears independence. The speaker turned to the other delegates. You see? Arrogance. Defiance. The human species stands barely a century into interstellar capability. Yet they challenge the structure that has maintained galactic harmony for 10,000 years. 10,000 years of silence, Rhea countered. 10,000 years of rules so strict that no species has evolved beyond them. Perhaps harmony isn't peace. Perhaps it's stagnation. The hall erupted in voices. Dozens of delegates shouted over one another through the translation field. Some demanded Earth's isolation. Others muttered that the human made sense. The balance was shifting, the order fraying. Rhea stood motionless, letting the storm build around her. Veltor slammed his crystalline hand down on his throne's armrest, and a wave of energy silenced the chamber. Enough, he commanded. Earth's fate will be decided by vote. All representatives will cast judgment within the next rotation. But before the speaker could close the session, Rhea took a step forward. With respect, she said, Earth has something to present before you decide. The speaker's voice dropped to a dangerous calm. You are in no position to bargain. It's not a bargain, she replied. It's a fact. She gestured toward a small floating device that had been resting beside her since her arrival. It activated with a flicker, projecting a hologram of the Milky Way. Dozens of colored markers appeared across the spiral arms. The hall dimmed as the projection expanded until the entire chamber was surrounded by starlight. These, Rhea said, her tone almost gentle, are the locations of independent worlds we contacted in the past 6 months. Worlds that the Council never noticed. Worlds abandoned after wars, disasters, or plagues. Some of them were destroyed under your sanctions. Others survived. They remember who caused their suffering. The hologram shifted again. Now it showed messages, recordings, signatures, hundreds of them. Each one carried the seal of an alien world pledging neutrality and support for Earth's diplomatic autonomy. The council erupted again, but this time the noise was different. It wasn't outrage, it was fear. Veltor rose from his seat, his crystalline body gleaming coldly. "You are forming alliances outside the council's authority," he said. "We are forming understanding," Rhea answered. "Something your council forgot long ago." A deep rumble shook the air as several delegates' thrones lifted from their sockets, gliding toward her. One of them, a massive creature of smoke and light known as the Hrythan Envoy, circled her slowly. "You threaten the structure that holds the galaxy together," it said, its voice like a shifting echo. "Do you truly believe your fragile species can endure what others could not?" Rhea met the envoy's burning gaze. "We've endured worse," she said. "On a small blue world with no help, no allies, and no mercy from nature itself. We learned to adapt. We learned to think beyond fear. And we learned to stand even when everything else falls." The silence that followed was absolute. Every being in the hall could feel it, the quiet conviction of a species that had clawed its way from extinction countless times. Veltor's light dimmed slightly, as though his resolve faltered. But then he straightened, restoring his glow. "Your defiance is dangerous, human. If Earth refuses council oversight, your system will be quarantined. Your ships will be barred from hyperspace. Your trade will collapse. You will fade back into isolation." Rhea smiled faintly, but there was no amusement in it. "Then you've already made your choice," she said. "But I'll leave you with this. Humanity doesn't fade. We adapt, we watch, and when the time comes, we remember who stood with us, and who tried to break us." The council chamber trembled with restrained fury and unease. The speaker finally declared the session suspended, his voice clipped and metallic. "The fate of Earth will be decided at the next assembly," he said. As the delegates began to disperse, a quiet figure approached Rhea from behind. It was Kaler, a reptilian ambassador known for his honesty, his scaled face unreadable. "You should not have spoken like that," he warned in a low tone. "They will punish you." Rhea looked up at the towering crystal dome where artificial sunlight flickered through alien glyphs. "Then they'll make the same mistake every empire has made," she said softly. "They'll underestimate us." When she stepped out of the chamber, the holographic banners of the council dimmed above her. The galaxy believed Earth was about to be silenced. But deep beneath the surface of Mars, a signal pulsed through encrypted channels waiting for her return. The humans were not preparing to beg. They were preparing to begin. The council chamber was silent, except for the low hum of energy that powered the 1,000 thrones floating in the circular hall. The representatives had gathered again, their luminous eyes fixed on the central platform where Earth's ambassador stood. The session had been called without warning, and tension filled the air like a storm about to break. Ambassador Rhea Morgan stood beneath the council's great seal, a symbol that shimmered like liquid metal. Her pulse was calm. The previous session had ended in chaos, and now she faced them again, not as a victim but as a strategist. The speaker, Veltor, appeared from the haze of light. His tall crystalline body flickered with restrained anger. "Human representative," he began, his voice echoing from every surface. "The council demands an explanation for your alliances. You have contacted species outside the council's protection. You have disrupted our network. You will answer." Rhea looked around the hall, meeting the gaze of beings who had ruled the stars for millennia. Some watched her with curiosity, others with fear. "We contacted those worlds because they were abandoned," she said. "You left them to die, and we listened when they called for help." A sharp hiss came from a delegate wrapped in living vines. "You presume authority where you have none. Earth is not a ruling world." "No," Rhea replied, her voice steady. "But we remember what it feels like to be ignored. Perhaps that's what makes us different." The room darkened slightly as the holographic recorders focused on her. Billions of beings across the galaxy were watching this transmission live. The council's words were law, and yet a single human dared to challenge them in front of everyone. Veltor's body glowed brighter. "Do not mistake sympathy for power, human. The council has tolerated your defiance long enough. You will disband your planetary defenses, surrender your AI programs, and submit to inspection." Rhea took a step closer to the projection beam. We will not surrender what keeps us alive. Then your species risks extinction, the speaker said. A heavy silence followed, broken only by the low hum of the energy field surrounding her platform. Rhea tilted her head slightly, almost smiling. You've threatened extinction before, she said. But history shows that those who try to erase us only teach us to fight smarter. The chamber erupted in sound again. Angry shouts. Bursts of static. The sharp pulse of alien translators straining to keep up. Rhea stood still, her hands clasped behind her back, watching the council lose its composure. For the first time, they didn't look like gods. They looked like frightened rulers unsure of the storm they had provoked. The broadcast ended abruptly as the speaker dismissed the session. Rhea turned and walked through the long crystal corridors of the council complex. The walls shimmered with holographic banners showing the emblems of thousands of worlds. As she passed them, a small communicator in her ear buzzed. "Signal confirmed," said a voice from deep space. It was Director Adrian Locke, the head of Earth's Strategic Division. "We received the full feed." "You've stirred the entire network." "Good," Rhea said softly. "Let them see what fear looks like when it changes sides." "Phase 1 is complete," Locke continued. "Phase 2 begins at your signal. The fleet is in position hidden within the Sol perimeter. Project Horizon is active." Rhea paused at the edge of a balcony overlooking the endless stars. "No attacks," she said. "Not yet. We move when they move." "Understood," Locke replied, the connection cut off. Rhea stayed on the balcony for a moment longer, watching the swirling storms of the gas giant below. She wondered how long the Council had truly been in control, and how many species had been silenced before humanity arrived to question them. Back on Earth, Director Locke stood in the command chamber of the Orbital Defense Network. Hundreds of screens surrounded him, displaying movements across the outer colonies and deep space transmissions from Council vessels. Around him, engineers and analysts worked in silence. The air carried the hum of hidden power. "Status of Horizon?" he asked. A technician responded without looking up. "Quantum prediction models are fully synchronized. We can simulate Council fleet movements within a 5-minute accuracy window." Locke nodded. "Increase range to the nearest trade routes. If they move their fleets, I want to know before they do." The technician hesitated. "Sir, if the Council discovers we're tapping their encrypted channels—" "They won't," Locke interrupted. "They're too proud to believe a young species could outthink them." He turned toward the large transparent wall that showed Earth spinning below. Blue, fragile, but unbroken. "Let them think we're reckless," he said. "It's what makes us dangerous." Across the galaxy, the Council gathered again in emergency session. The speaker's voice filled the chamber with authority, but a subtle unease crept through the air. The recent transmission had spread faster than expected. Smaller civilizations were questioning the Council's motives. Protests had already begun on several worlds. "We must act before this infection spreads," said a delegate made of shifting metal plates. "Earth's defiance is a threat to unity." "Their technology is primitive," another added. "We should occupy their system and dismantle their defense grid." Kalor, the reptilian ambassador who had once spoken privately with Rhea, raised his voice. "Be careful. You assume they are primitive, but their behavior suggests planning. They knew exactly how to challenge the Council's image." Veltor glared at him. "Are you suggesting they have power equal to ours?" "I'm suggesting," Kalor replied, "that they understand us better than we understand them." The chamber fell silent. For the first time in centuries, doubt began to spread among the rulers of the galaxy. That night, Rhea walked alone through the lower levels of the Council's diplomatic complex. The corridors here were quieter, filled with dim light and the faint hum of translation drones. She stopped before a massive observation window watching the city below. Thousands of alien ships drifted through the glowing atmosphere, their paths weaving like streams of light. A voice spoke behind her. "You've made enemies." Rhea turned to see Kalor standing there. His scales reflected the dim light like burnished armor. "I've made truth," she said. "Enemies come with it." "They are preparing for war," Kalor warned. "The Council believes your AI can predict their movements." "Is it true?" Rhea didn't answer. Instead, she looked back at the window. "Tell them whatever you like. But ask yourself something, Kalor. Why would a species so young challenge the oldest power in the galaxy without knowing how the game ends?" Kalor stared at her for a moment, realization dawning slowly. You already know what they will do. Rhea smiled faintly. That's the difference between humans and the Council. They act to preserve order. We act to survive. A distant alarm echoed through the corridors, Council fleets mobilizing near the Sol frontier. The order had been given faster than anyone expected. The galaxy's enforcers were moving toward Earth. Rhea's communicator chimed once. She pressed it. Director Locke here, the voice said. Council fleets are entering the outer perimeter. Shall we respond? Her eyes hardened. No weapons. Activate Horizon instead. Let them see their own reflection before they see us. A low pulse of light flashed through her communicator as the command went through. Somewhere beyond Mars, invisible satellites synchronized and released a network-wide quantum interference field. Within minutes, the Council's ships began to lose navigation data. Their sensors flickered. Gravity controls malfunctioned. Inside the flagship, confusion spread as systems collapsed. They're inside our network, shouted an officer. We've lost orientation. We can't see our own fleet. The commander demanded to know what was happening, but the answer came too late. Every simulation, every path they attempted ended in failure, before it even began. In the Council's chamber, the speaker received the report. Explain, he demanded. The human world didn't fire a single weapon, said a trembling envoy. Our ships disabled themselves. Veltor turned toward Rhea, who stood calmly at her platform once again. What have you done? Rhea met his gaze. Nothing, she said softly. We only showed you what happens when power forgets to listen. For a moment, the mighty chamber was silent. No one dared speak. Then, without another word, Rhea walked away, her reflection fading in the golden light of the hall. Far above the gas giant, the Council's banners flickered, their brightness dimming. And across the stars, whispers spread faster than light itself. Whispers that the galaxy's greatest rulers had just been outsmarted by the youngest species among them. The chamber lights dimmed until only the Council's great seal shone above the assembly floor. Thousands of alien delegates sat in their elevated thrones, their faces lit by the glow of floating data screens. The speaker stood at the center, towering and translucent like a living sculpture of glass. His voice, deep and resonant, filled the room. The Council convenes to discuss the human crisis, he said. Their technology has interfered with our fleet operations. Their system remains closed to investigation. They have shown us a power we cannot explain. At the center of the chamber, the light column brightened, and the human representative appeared once again. Ambassador Rhea Morgan stood alone on the transparent platform, her expression calm though the air around her pulsed with tension. Veltor's eyes glowed brighter as he addressed her. Ambassador of Earth, we demand an explanation. How did your species cripple a fleet of 50 Council warships without firing a single shot? Rhea's voice was clear and steady. We didn't cripple them, she said. They simply saw what they wanted to see. The chamber erupted in noise, hissing, chittering, vibrating tones of disbelief and anger. Veltor's crystalline form flared with heat. Do you mock us, human? Rhea met his glare without fear. No. I'm explaining that perception can be a weapon if one knows how to use it. Her words silenced the room. Even through the layered languages of the translation field, her tone carried weight. Every delegate, from the smallest aquatic envoy to the towering insectoid elders, felt something unfamiliar creeping through them. Doubt. Rhea continued. Your fleets entered our system armed, aggressive, and uninvited. Every one of your ships carried threat protocols in its core systems. Our defense network read those intentions and reacted, not by destroying you, but by turning your own systems against your assumptions. Veltor's voice hardened. Your AI violated the Treaty on Autonomous Intelligence. That alone is grounds for termination. You mean the treaty that was written before we existed, Rhea replied. A treaty we never signed. Several delegates murmured in agreement. Others shouted for immediate sanctions. The speaker raised a hand, the chamber trembling into silence again. Enough, he said. We must decide if this human technology is a danger to the entire galaxy. Rhea looked around at the sea of alien faces. Danger? She asked softly. You've built a council that fears anything it cannot predict. But prediction is not peace. It's control. You've ruled for so long that you've forgotten how to think beyond fear. Her words echoed like thunder. Even the ancient walls of the chamber seemed to absorb them. For the first time in living memory, a representative of a young world had challenged the foundation of galactic order. Veltor's glow dimmed slightly. "Then prove it," he said. "Show us that your world does not intend harm." "I already have," Rhea said. "We could have destroyed your fleet." "We chose not to." The chamber went quiet again. The implication was unmistakable. Earth could have struck first, but didn't. In the observation decks high above, millions of beings across the galaxy watched the transmission live. The humans' restraint unsettled them more than any weapon could have. A species capable of such power, yet unwilling to use it rashly, was something entirely new. After the session ended, Rhea walked through the long corridor of glass and metal that led to the private diplomatic quarters. Her escort, a silent automaton built from adaptive alloy, followed a few steps behind. The council's city stretched beyond the walls, a world of spiraling towers, glowing bridges, and hovering craft that crisscrossed the clouds. She reached her quarters and activated the secure channel. The holographic form of Director Adrian Locke appeared before her. His uniform was simple, his eyes sharp. "They've taken the bait," he said quietly. "They're scared," Rhea replied, "but not enough yet. They still believe they can control the narrative." Locke nodded. "Phase 3? "Proceed," she said. "Release partial data to their network. Let them think they're uncovering our secrets." He smiled faintly. "You know, the Council thinks in centuries. We think in days. That's our advantage." Rhea looked out the window at the endless stars. "No," she said. "Our advantage is that we still remember what it means to fight for survival." They've forgotten. On the other side of the galaxy, the Council's intelligence division began decrypting the data Earth had accidentally leaked. The files appeared incomplete, fragmented algorithms and strange energy patterns. Analysts worked day and night, convinced they were decoding humanity's military secrets. But every attempt led them deeper into confusion. The data seemed alive, rewriting itself as they studied it. Some claimed it was a virus, others believed it was a test. The truth was simpler and far more dangerous. It was bait. A week later, a Council scout vessel entered Earth's orbit under stealth mode. Its mission was to observe and report, not engage. The crew watched as human ships patrolled calmly around their planet. No visible weapons, no sign of hostility. Yet their sensors detected something impossible. Thousands of faint, invisible energy signatures surrounding the system, moving with perfect synchronization. The captain of the scout ship frowned. "Are those ships?" he asked. "No," replied his sensor officer. "They're predictions." The crew stared in disbelief as their sensors began to forecast their own movements, seconds before they made them. The ship's systems reported actions before they occurred, as if time itself were folding around them. The captain ordered a retreat, but the ship's engines disengaged on their own, responding to a command that hadn't yet been given. When the vessel finally escaped, the crew refused to speak of what they had seen, but their report reached the Council and panic began to spread. Veltor summoned an emergency session. The chamber filled with agitated voices. "They control causality," one delegate shouted. "They can see the future." "That's impossible," another argued. "No species could," Rhea's voice interrupted them. She stood again at the center of the hall, surrounded by the light of the Council's power. "You misunderstand what you saw," she said. "We don't see the future. We understand possibility." The speaker glared at her. "You admit to manipulating our fleets." "I admit to defending our existence," she said. "Your fleets entered our territory expecting fear. What they found was awareness." Veltor's glow flickered dangerously. "You threaten galactic stability." "No," Rhea said. "We expose its illusion." The chamber trembled as hundreds of alien voices clashed in anger and disbelief. But amidst the chaos, Kalor, the reptilian ambassador, stood from his seat. His deep voice cut through the noise. "Perhaps the human is right. Perhaps it is not power we should fear, but ignorance." A stunned silence followed. For centuries, no member of the Council had dared speak against the speaker. Veltor's expression hardened. "You would side with them?" "I would side with reason," Kalor replied. "The Council hides behind its own laws, yet punishes those who question them. Maybe humanity is not the threat. Maybe it is the mirror we have long avoided." The Council chamber divided instantly. Arguments broke out between factions. Some demanded Earth's destruction. Others called for negotiation. The illusion of unity that had held the galaxy together for millennia was cracking before everyone's eyes. As the shouting continued, Rhea turned to leave the platform. Her words lingered in the air, quiet but undeniable. "You call us dangerous because we refuse to kneel. But you forget. We learned long ago that peace without freedom is just another kind of war." When she exited the hall, the noise behind her faded into chaos. Outside, the stars of the Council's capital shone like 1,000 silent witnesses. Back on Earth, Director Locke watched the transmission from his command station. His aides stood frozen as the feed ended. "She did it," one whispered. "They're turning on each other." Locke's expression remained calm. "Good," he said. "Let them. The first battle of this war won't be fought with weapons. It will be fought with truth." Above him, the orbital network pulsed once, sending encrypted signals through the void. Humanity had no empire, no armada, no ancient power, but they had something far greater: clarity. And in the heart of the galaxy, the rulers who once believed themselves untouchable finally began to understand the truth. The Council's biggest mistake wasn't fearing humanity. It was underestimating what fear could make humans become. The lights of the Galactic Council chamber dimmed to a deep indigo as the delegation from Earth was escorted inside. The air shimmered with static from translation fields and holographic transmissions. From every direction came the sound of movement, thousands of alien representatives turning their attention toward the newcomers. The great dome of the Council stretched so high that its ceiling was lost in a haze of stars, and beneath it, the species of the galaxy waited to judge humanity for the first time. At the center stood the human envoy, Elias Ward, dressed in a simple dark suit. No armor, no symbols, just the insignia of Earth on his sleeve. His calm expression contrasted sharply with the towering figures surrounding him, the molten forms of the Kothar, the winged Zelians whose feathers flickered with biolight, the mechanical entities of the Yun Collective whose voices echoed in metallic harmony. Every delegate radiated authority, but Elias remained still, his gaze unflinching as the Council speaker rose from the throne of light. "Representative of Earth," the speaker intoned, his voice deep and cold, "you stand before the assembly of 1,000 worlds. Your species has violated containment protocols. Your planet has accelerated in technology beyond approved limits. You have ignored the Council's warnings. Explain yourselves." Elias looked up, his voice steady. "We received no warnings. The Council only appeared after we reached beyond our moon. You watched in silence for centuries, and now that we have found you, you call us violators." A ripple of murmurs passed through the chamber. Some delegates whispered in languages older than Earth itself. The speaker's form flickered. "We monitored your development. Humanity evolved too fast. Unregulated growth is dangerous to stability." Elias's eyes narrowed slightly. "You mean dangerous to your control?" The room erupted. Lights flared. The translation fields crackled as hundreds of voices demanded silence, punishment, sanction. The speaker slammed his staff, and the sound silenced them instantly. "You dare accuse this council of tyranny?" Elias stepped forward, his voice calm but sharp. "I don't accuse, I state. The council decides which species rise and which stay beneath the glass ceiling you've built. You call it order. We call it fear." The speaker's crystalline eyes gleamed. "Fear is the foundation of peace." "Peace without choice is not peace," Elias replied. "It's obedience." The chamber froze. Even the mechanical delegates paused their rhythmic blinking. No one had ever spoken to the council like this. The speaker tilted his head. "You are bold, human. But boldness is not power." Elias smiled faintly. "No. But understanding is." The lights shifted. Without warning, the air above the chamber changed. An image projected from the human delegation's device. It showed a simulation of the Milky Way, but one detail drew every eye. At its center, a bright, expanding pulse. "This," Elias said, "is what you fear most. Progress that you cannot predict." Delegates leaned forward, some whispering to their aides. "That is not a weapon," Elias continued. "It's information. A map of energy readings you dismissed as background noise. But they're not noise. They're communication patterns. Someone or something has been transmitting across the void for longer than your council has existed. The speaker's glow dimmed. Impossible. Then explain why your own archives hide records of similar signals, Elias said quietly. You've known. You just didn't want anyone else to know. The council erupted again. Voices clashed, some demanding truth, others calling for the humans' removal. But Elias raised his hand. We didn't come here to threaten you. We came to ask why you're hiding from the galaxy you claim to govern. The speaker's gaze was like ice. You play a dangerous game, human, Elias replied. We don't play. We adapt. The session was adjourned, but tension filled the corridors long after the lights faded. Elias walked through the crystalline hallways of the council's citadel, accompanied by his aide, Mara. She whispered, They'll see that as a declaration of defiance. They already did, Elias said. Now they'll have to decide whether to silence us or listen. From the balcony, the view of the capital world was both breathtaking and terrible. The planet stretched endlessly, towers of living metal, rivers of light, and airships moving between cities suspended on magnetic fields. Every structure radiated control, a system designed to never fail. Elias looked at it with quiet disbelief. A civilization that stopped changing, he murmured. Mara frowned. What if they strike first? He turned to her. Then they prove our point. That night, the Council's intelligence division gathered in secrecy. Holograms of Earth filled the dark chamber, surrounded by data streams and sensor readings. Commander Yelran, a massive creature of liquid silver, watched in silence as the analysts displayed intercepted transmissions from the human ship. They're hiding something, one said. Their communications are encrypted beyond anything we've seen. Or they want us to think they are, Yelran replied. Humans manipulate perception. Their representative turned a trial into a debate. That's strategy. But why? To make us hesitate, Yelran said. And it's working. Across the galaxy, rumors spread. Some species began to question the Council's control. Others secretly reached out to humans, curious and afraid. Small trade packets from independent worlds arrived at Earth's outer colonies, offers of alliance, exchanges of technology. The Council's silence became more dangerous than its threats. A week later, the Council reconvened in emergency session. The speaker's voice was strained as he addressed the assembly. Reports confirm unauthorized contact between member worlds and the human species. This cannot continue. If Earth refuses containment, we will enforce it. Elias stood again in the center of the chamber. You would start a war to preserve your illusion of peace? The speaker's tone turned cold. To preserve order. Then you misunderstand what order is, Elias said. It's not control, it's cooperation, but you've forgotten that. Velra, an ancient delegate from the Zelian Conquered, leaned forward. And what does humanity offer that we lack? Elias looked around. Hope. The kind that doesn't come from rules, but from possibility. For a moment, silence fell over the chamber. Even the speaker's energy dimmed slightly. But before anyone could respond, the great dome above them flickered. The starfield, projected on its surface, distorted, replaced by a strange pattern, shifting lines of light that formed symbols no species present could recognize. The chamber filled with uneasy sounds. What is that? Someone asked. Elias stared upward. It's the signal, he said softly. The one you've been hiding. The speaker slammed his staff again. Deactivate it. Technicians worked frantically, but the lights only grew stronger. The pattern expanded until it filled the entire ceiling. Then a sound followed, soft, rhythmic, almost human. A voice, fragmented but clear, echoed through the translation systems. We are awake. The lights went out. When they returned, the chamber was silent. Delegates trembled, unable to speak. Elias's calm expression never changed. What did you do? The speaker demanded. Nothing, Elias said. You built the network. You hid the truth. We only turned it back on. Panic rippled through the hall. The council systems, the same ones that monitored every world, had received the signal. Every database, every archive, every hidden record now carried that same pulse. Whatever was speaking had been waiting for centuries, and humanity had just revealed it. The speaker glared at Elias. You've doomed us all. No, Elias said quietly. You doomed yourselves when you decided knowledge was a threat. Security drones surrounded the human envoy, but the speaker hesitated. Across the chamber, some delegates rose in defense of Earth. Others demanded immediate arrest. The unity of the council fractured in an instant. As chaos erupted, Elias turned to Mara. It begins, he said. What does? She asked. The truth, spreading faster than fear. Outside the chamber, the stars over the capital world shimmered strangely. Every communications satellite, every relay, every beacon across the galaxy pulsed with the same hidden signal. It carried no message of conquest, no threat, only a reminder that something greater existed beyond control. Back on Earth, the leaders watched the transmission in silence. The skies over the planet filled with faint patterns of light, the same that had appeared in the council chamber. Humanity had forced the galaxy to see what it had refused to acknowledge for ages. In that moment, one thing became clear across every world. The age of silent obedience was over. Humanity had not come to beg for acceptance. They had come to remind the galaxy that freedom, once awakened, could never again be contained. The massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber closed with a thunderous echo that silenced the storm of voices inside. The grand hall, stretching for miles in every direction, was filled with the representatives of over 1,000 civilizations, their glowing eyes and forms fixed on the lone delegation from Earth. At the center stood Elias Ward once again, surrounded by security drones and the blinding light of the Council's core. Every word spoken here would be broadcast across the galaxy. Every move would shape the fate of humanity. The speaker's form shimmered like molten glass, the intensity of his light rising as he declared, "The human race has violated the peace of the galaxy. You have awakened something ancient. You will answer for this." Elias raised his eyes slowly. "We didn't awaken anything. We revealed the truth that your council has buried for thousands of years." Gasps filled the chamber. The holographic translators crackled as the words reached every delegate. Across the tiers of the council hall, alien leaders leaned forward, watching the human representative with unease and fascination. The speaker's voice deepened. "The signal you unleashed has destabilized our networks. It spreads across systems uncontrollably. Entire sectors have gone dark. You call this truth?" Elias met his gaze with quiet certainty. "Maybe they went silent because they finally heard something greater than your commands." The silence that followed was suffocating. The tension was so thick that the faint hum of the council's energy field became the only sound in the air. Then, without warning, the dome above them flickered again. The pattern returned, lines of light, moving like rivers of thought, forming strange shifting symbols. Delegates stood in alarm. Some shouted for the system to be shut down, others whispered in fear. But Elias only watched, his voice calm as he spoke into the chaos. "Listen to it," he said softly. "It's not a weapon. It's a message." The speaker slammed his staff. "Deactivate it immediately." Technicians struggled, but the signal pulsed stronger. The translation systems translated fragments of sound into words. Unity. Lost. Return. For a moment everything froze. Every delegate heard it, felt it. Then in an instant, the holographic projections throughout the chamber shifted again, showing images. Scenes from distant galaxies, ancient worlds destroyed, civilizations forgotten. The speaker's light dimmed. What are these?" Elias looked up. "Memories. From the ones who came before your council. They were builders, explorers, not rulers. They reached beyond the stars long before any of you did." The room erupted into chaos. Some alien representatives argued that it was a human trick. Others began to question the speaker. Whispers of rebellion spread like wildfire through the chamber. Velra, the Zelian representative, rose from her seat. "You said the humans were dangerous," she said. But perhaps the danger lies in what you have hidden from us. The speaker's energy surged violently. Silence. You will not question the Council's order. But Velra continued. The galaxy deserves to know its true history. If the humans can uncover this, what else have you concealed? Elias stood still, his voice calm. That's the question every species should be asking. A blinding light erupted from the center dais. The speaker had activated the containment field. A shimmering cage of energy surrounded Elias and his team. You have interfered enough, the speaker declared. Earth will be cut off from the galactic network. No ship shall leave your solar system again. Elias met his gaze, his expression unreadable. You think you can cage us? You are already caged, the speaker said coldly. Your curiosity will die in silence. But before the speaker could continue, the lights across the council chamber flickered again, this time with a deeper, rhythmic pulse. The floor vibrated. Every holographic projection, every energy field, every power conduit in the chamber responded to the same invisible frequency. The speaker turned sharply to his guards. What is happening? A technician's voice trembled. The source is not within the chamber. It's everywhere. The entire network is resonating. Elias looked upward. You can't stop it. You hid the truth for millennia, but the galaxy is listening now. The containment field shattered with a deafening crack. The light patterns grew brighter, cascading across the walls and ceilings like living streams of fire. Every delegate shielded their eyes. Through the storm of light came a voice, not human, not alien, but something ancient, speaking through the frequencies of the Council's systems. We see you, it said. You forgot what we built. You forgot why we left. You caged knowledge to preserve control. Now the doors open once more. Then, just as suddenly, the light vanished. The hall was plunged into silence. The great council dome flickered weakly, its systems overloaded. Delegates looked around in stunned disbelief. The speaker's body dimmed, his voice shaking. What was that? Ilias answered quietly. That was your reminder. The galaxy doesn't belong to one council. It belongs to everyone. The speaker turned on him with fury. You will be held responsible for this chaos. Elias stepped forward slowly. You call it chaos. But every great civilization starts there. At the moment, it refuses to be ruled by fear. A deep rumble spread through the chamber as the holographic feeds reactivated. Across thousands of worlds, images appeared. Alien citizens watching in real time as the council faltered for the first time in its history. Some cheered. Others stood in silent awe. Back on Earth, millions watched too. The transmission had reached the planet's surface. In every city, in every home, people stood together as the image of Elias facing the council filled the skies. Your council made one mistake, Elias said, his voice echoing across the galaxy. You thought control could last forever. You underestimated the one species that never stops asking why. The speaker's energy flared violently, but he knew it was too late. The signal had spread beyond their reach. The systems they created to watch others were now broadcasting their own secrets. The illusion of control shattered like glass. Security drones surrounded Elias again, but none of the alien delegates moved to help. They were no longer certain who the enemy was. Some even lowered their banners, refusing to participate in his arrest. The unity of the council broke in that moment, and a new idea began to grow. Freedom. Elias looked around one last time. You could join us, he said to the assembly. We can rebuild this galaxy together. No walls, no cages, no secrets. Velra stood, wings glowing faintly. Perhaps it's time we listen to the humans, she said softly. The speaker tried to object, but his voice was lost beneath the rising sound of dissent. More delegates rose. The chamber filled with voices, not of obedience but of defiance. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the council no longer spoke with one voice. Elias turned to leave but stopped at the doors. The signal you feared, it wasn't a warning, he said. It was an invitation. The doors opened, and the human delegation stepped into the light beyond. Outside, the capital world's sky shimmered with streaks of blue and gold, the same pulse that had swept across the stars. It wasn't destruction. It was awakening. Ships from distant species began transmitting messages to Earth, offers of alliance, curiosity, and hope. The council could no longer stop it. The truth was free. As the human ship lifted from the surface, Elias watched from the viewport. The galaxy beyond glittered like a sea of possibilities. For centuries, the council had ruled through fear. But now that fear was gone. Mara looked at him quietly. "What happens now?" Elias smiled faintly. "Now," he said, "we see what happens when the galaxy starts thinking for itself." Far away, deep in the void, the ancient signal pulsed one final time, soft, steady, alive. And for the first time in 1,000 years, the galaxy listened. The Council's biggest mistake was never that they underestimated humanity's strength. It was that they underestimated humanity's will to question everything. And in doing so, they had ignited the one thing that no power could ever contain: freedom.